Hey folks, we've got a great show this week on the Unconventional Wealth Show. We're going to talk about college. Is it a waste of time and money or not? Stay tuned. Find out. Hey, welcome into the show. This is, again, the Unconventional Wealth Show. I'm Coach Pete, joined with Mike Conlon, who's a multimillionaire self-made. But today we're going to talk about ways that you can get on the right track or help your children out, and we're going to talk about college. Mike, welcome in.
Hey, thanks, Coach Pete.
Yeah, now, college, I went to college. I had a great time in college. I actually paid my own tuition back in the 80s, early 80s. We were talking before the show. I paid $148 the first semester. I remember because I had to write the check. I thought that was a lot of money. College costs have skyrocketed these days, haven't they?
It's crazy. I mean, they're up 300% in the last 15, 20 years, way ahead of inflation. And I think, the big question now, is it a waste of money? What do you really do college-wise? A lot of people still say you need that piece of paper. I agree to some extent, but you got to be really cost-conscious about it.
The best thing I learned in college is how to budget my time and make sure I was on the right track, and also living away from mom and dad, which was a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. I was homesick the first year, but being in college really helps you out. It I guess, gets you in the frame of mind of just living on your own. College is a byproduct of that because you move a lot of times. You move to a different city and you're living on your own. So we'll go over a couple different strategies of going to college but maybe living at home. Because I also told you that my tuition was $148 back then, but my room and board was over $5,000.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think colleges that serve some purpose. I just think people need to rethink it, going forward. And I really question whether private schools are worth the money anymore. We're talking about Duke and some of these other schools where they're over $60,000 a year now. I question that a little bit. I think the state schools in North Carolina offer good value, but still, it's a 4-year program. When you talk to the kids, there's really 2 years of a lot of fluff.
So the objective of college is to learn, right?
Correct.
That's the main way, and maybe learn to live away from your parents, but learning is the key. That's why we have colleges. So colleges were invented before this thing called the internet existed.
Exactly.
And you've got some ideas about how the internet can educate even better than colleges many times.
Well, and I talk about in my book a little bit too, is that, sometimes now with, people can Google their education if they really, Sean Parker from Facebook was the first one to come up with that. And I think that's a lot of things. And you see in Silicon Valley now, they don't want people really with a college education. They're hiring these people direct out of high school and they want to train them themselves. And I think that's going to be a continuing trend. But, for people in the Midwest and the Southeast like we are, I still think it holds some value, but you just really got to look at the cost.
When we're talking about the degree, you said the piece of paper, and a lot of folks, they just want to get through college regardless of what their degree says.
Yeah.
And it's debatable how much that piece, maybe you're better off buying a fancy painting and auctioning it off because the degree in something that's not marketable, like maybe get a degree in library sciences or something like that. Well, libraries are still exist, but now the internet has taken over a lot of that.
Correct.
Remember the Dewey Decimal System? Well, we learned that
Still
back
around,
in the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're going to college, if you're going to go and you're going to pay all that money for 4, 5, even 6 years or longer sometimes, you need to see the return on investment, don't you?
Absolutely. And I think that's what it comes down to nowadays. And again, I got 3 kids in college right now. Actually, one just graduated. But, the first 2 years.
One less bill.
Yeah, one less bill to take care of. But, for the first 2 years, there's a lot of these, humanities courses and sciences and stuff that my kids aren't interested in, but they still force you to take them.
Right.
And I think that's where the waste of money comes in. Again, the state schools in North Carolina offer a great value, I think, still, because it does get your piece of paper. But, I'm very focused on the STEM, science, technology, education, or engineering and math. I think those jobs are readily available. Philosophy majors, stuff like that, it's going to be real tough.
One of the ideas I've shared with a lot of clients is the first 2 years, go to a community college locally, stay at home with your folks, learn how to study, get those core classes, the ones that you don't really want to take but have to, out of the way, and then transfer into a 4-year college as a junior. And this way, your GPA won't be adversely affected by you not knowing the study habits or getting acclimated with college because you're getting all the core classes out of the way the first 2 years. And those grades don't usually carry, but the credits do.
Absolutely.
So then you start from scratch your junior year, and you're way ahead of the curve because you actually, hopefully by then, have decided what you're going to do in school.
I totally agree. I think community college is definitely the way to go for most people. And the other thing too, the cost is 25% of the state schools, so it's super cheap. But also people really don't know what they want to do at 18. Kids are changing their majors, and that's when they really waste the money. And so I think community college gives you 2 years to grow up a little bit.
Yep.
May not be a bad thing to live away from home, but you can certainly live at home and save a bunch of money. But it's definitely the way a lot of kids should look at it nowadays.
Yeah, to get your feet wet and help with, I've talked to people in their 40s and 50s still don't know what they want to do in life, right?
Exactly.
So at least you can get acclimated and see what's happening.
Well, how many people do you and I both know that, have these majors that never use their majors? I mean, it's a vast majority of people never got into what they did.
A lot of people. And so I guess the college experience we hear now, you say that the for-profit college is a whole different story, maybe a ripoff in a lot of cases.
I really think they are, and you've seen a lot of stuff in the news lately, and you can go through various examples. Corinthian College just shut down, and it was a multi-billion-dollar thing. But for me, it's all about crony capitalism. You and I have talked about this, all these politicians being bought and paid for by the time they get in, and they support these institutions that get 95% of their money from the federal government, and they're putting a lot of people in school that can't pay the loans back. To me, that's criminal, but it continues to go on.
Well, it can be said that the availability of loans, the flooding the market with loans by the government, has caused the colleges to say, heck, the government's given money, let's raise tuition. So by trying to help people, the government may be hurting people who don't want to borrow because the costs have gone up.
That's a great point. And I think the kids at that age don't understand that they're going to have to pay those loans back at some point in time. And really, if you borrow 50 or 100 grand and some of these, grad students, $100, $200, $300,000 in student loans, that's like a mortgage for the rest of your life that you're going to have to pay back. And there's no way to get out of them because you can't even get out of them in bankruptcy. So.
Talk about my first house out of college was $112,000. That was for a house, and it was like 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Now you got people coming out of college with more debt than I had after I got out of college, debt free, but then I've added the mortgage loan on.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And again, if people don't use that major, if there's various things like that happening, I don't think people at 18, 19 can understand the value of money. Again, another thing that's a shame is that they're not teaching financial education. Guys like you in the high schools and stuff like that should be mandatory. But these kids come to college and they think it's free money, and they're living off the loans. They're using it for personal expenses and stuff like that. So it's a big problem.
My daughter's 10 now, but when she was 5, I told her math is money because she didn't like math. Now she loves math because I translated that into, she liked American Girl dolls. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yep,
That's
absolutely.
a big money-making adventure for the American Girl doll factory. But I taught her the more money she could save now, the more American Girl dolls she could buy later. Of course, she's outgrown that now, according to her friends, but she still plays in her room with the doll. She doesn't want her friends to know. But it's just about, I think they should have a financial education course as soon as kindergarten, just in real simple jelly beans. Like, here's some jelly beans, take 2 or 3 of those away. You invest them over there, maybe you'll get more jelly beans in the future, that kind of thing. So it's not as hard as people make it, but if you've never balanced a checkbook and now you're a business owner, you're in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. And I think kids at 18 and 19 need to understand the value of money and really what these loans are going to do to them over a period of time. And, we talk about a sluggish economy, and everybody's talking about the millennials not being able to buy houses and stuff like that because they're stuck with student loans. And I agree. I mean, if I had that type of loan when coming out of school, again, for you and I, it was a lot cheaper. The costs have gone up so much, and it's tough to justify. And I think a lot of it goes into the athletic departments, which I'm a big college football fan, but, you got to question some of that value too. So
we talk about debt ratios, and again, the loan counts against you. So you get a smaller house if you can even afford a house at all, because your college loan is like a mortgage payment.
It really is. And again, I think the for-profit schools are a definite no. They've been around a long time, and I think really their recruiters are salespeople that are trying to get these people into loans. And when you get 95% of your money from the federal government, to me that's wrong. And again, it's whether it be the loan problem or the schools, and these guys are business guys taking advantage of what the rules are, so you can't entirely blame them. But some of these, for-profit schools have graduation rates between 4% and 30%. That's not the fault. That's graduation rates.
Wow, that's low.
That's
low.
4%.
4% is crazy.
4%, and they're still getting money. And there's another one that was a good article in the New York Times recently about one company has 12 states suing them, big class action, and they still got over $1 billion from the federal government last year.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we get that job? Now, one of the final things here, I hear advertisements on the radio many times for specialized training in schools to get you like for a certain tech certificate to know the Cisco or the networking.
Yep.
I think that makes a lot of sense for folks who are trying to establish a direction. Maybe they're tech focused. Instead of going to a 4-year college, go to a 6-month, 1 year,
Absolutely.
learn 1 or 2 skills that are very marketable in today's economy.
I think that's a great point. And, you know, a lot of parents come up to me and say, hey, my kid struggles in high school a little bit, especially socially. He's very bright. And now in Raleigh and Durham, they have these coding classes available for, I think the tuition's $10,000. It's a 6 to 9 month program. Placement rate's like 98%. And these kids are coming out at 18, 19, making 60, 70 grand a year with a very viable skill. And I think that's really what it boils down to college. You got to walk out of there with a skill that's going to make you money.
Yeah, and what it does is even if that becomes obsolete in the future, now they're in that same frame of mind, and they know they've met a lot of people in their fields who are always advancing on technology.
Correct.
And they get advanced certificates, which again puts them in that 6-figure income, which everybody wants.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, college, it's almost like you should go back every 5 years because the world's changing so fast.
Absolutely.
To lump all your education from 18 to 22 years old and you got your lifetime to go ahead just doesn't make any sense.
So finally, we'll talk about online colleges, and these are making a big push nowadays.
Yep.
Where the classes are there, you can watch the professors on videos. You can pause them whenever you feel like it. I wish I could have done that in college. But it's to me, a lot of people think that way. We don't want to sit in class for an hour and a half, and our mind wanders. Now we'll watch at our own speed and whenever our
Yep.
time is. To me, I do my best learning after 11 o'clock at night. Believe it
Yeah.
or not,
Yeah.
there aren't any colleges that are open at 11 at night, but there's 24-hour, 7-day-a-week colleges online. You can watch the videos and take the tests either there or through a proctored place where they
Yep.
go and actually watch you take the exam. What do you think about that? Is the future going to go that way? Because we're getting less and less of an interactive society and more of an internet society.
Absolutely. There's no question it's going that way. It's going to continue. It's way cheaper. You can be anywhere in the world and take your classes. And, you know, the other things I look at, these big universities paying these, you know, presidents and all the senior people multiple millions of dollars. Yep. It reminds me a lot of corporate America, which, you know, I think is a little bit crooked in this day and age. But, you know, I definitely think the wave of the future is the internet, and it's what they're doing right now. Stanford, I think, is the first one, is they're getting these online courses accredited. And that's the key thing they're missing. Once they get those things accredited, why would you pay all the extra if you can go see your best Stanford professor online for super cheap?
Makes a lot of sense, folks. These strategies and more, of course, are on other Unconventional Wealth shows that you can view at any time by clicking on the link. Mike, thanks for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me.